First, I'd like to outline the problem. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a passionate entrepreneur tell me, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. The level of frustration that I often see from entrepreneurs is very high when it comes to relying on associates that they may have hired to produce. And many times it's about getting those associates to think like an owner, act like an owner, put in the hours like an owner puts in the hours, and to really care about the business. I often see this in environments where there is centralized decision making. Smaller companies or companies that are in a life stage of high growth, entrepreneur driven companies tend to have centralized decision making with a lot of the even small tactical decisions being made at the very top of the organization. And because of this, when the entrepreneur tries to push down the whole concept of decision making and delegating down into the organization, you tend to get some negative reaction from your associates many times, and sometimes even associate fear. The fear of making the wrong decision, the fear of acting out of school, the fear of getting reprimanded should they make a mistake. So this whole conflict feeds on itself, where you've got centralized decision making, and then some of the decision making starts to leak down, and then when those associates try to make decisions and don't do a good job, then it really angers the entrepreneur sometimes, and it starts to feed on itself and become a very negative cycle. The other big part of this is empowerment. Empowerment down into the organization can't be half-hearted. You either empower or you don't. When you try to empower a little bit, it makes it very difficult for the associates or the employees to know what's expected and to be able to deliver for the entrepreneur. The other concept I want to throw out here is what I call the lid. The lid on growth tends to happen, I call it the $20 million wall or the $10 million wall, but a lot of times entrepreneurs will hit a lid where they recognize that their centralized decision-making style of running their business just doesn't scale anymore. It will not scale. So one of the keys that I really want to kind of drive home today to scaling your organization and really taking it to the next level is that the entrepreneur and the CEO needs to be ready to delegate decision-making down to the absolute lowest level in the organization. You need to empower the people at the lowest parts of the organization that are up against the customer, up against your supplier, making the daily decisions, to be able to do that in a way that will really help you to accelerate the growth of the company and to take it to another level. Now, the entrepreneur needs to be thinking 6 months out, 12 months out, 18 months out, partnerships, strategy, speaking, all the things that goes along with building a great strategy and laying in the roadmap towards the vision. You need to be able to trust your associates, directors, VPs, even customer CRM call agents or administrative assistants to make decisions day in and day out to actually run the company. If you can't do that, then you're going to hit a lid on your growth that will severely hamper taking your company to another level. Now, the solution is a concept that I've created called the 4 walls. Now, the 4 walls are meant to represent a safe place. Just like children, I believe associates or employees need to feel comfortable that there are boundaries around them. And these boundaries help to give them comfort to make decisions and to be who they are within the bounds of those 4 walls. So if you would, with me, picture these 4 walls, and we're going to build these walls brick by brick. It's another key part of the analogy. These walls don't get built overnight. It's a very proactive approach to building the walls, and you have to lay in brick by brick each level within these walls, and the more sound you make the walls, the more bulletproof you make these walls, the faster you'll be able to empower your employees to make great decisions. So let's talk about the 4 walls very quickly. The first wall is your mission and vision. Mission is simply what we do and why we do it. Many of you have a mission statement. I would submit that the more clear and concise your mission statement is, the more real it is, the stronger this wall will be. The vision piece of this wall is where we're going. So without knowing where we're going, it's hard for people to make decisions. So the analogy I use quite a lot is we're going to go to Orlando on Monday with my children. I live in North Palm Beach. Well, I can tell you that my 7-year-old knows that Orlando is north of here. So I can empower her to tell me we need to go north to get to Orlando. But if she didn't know we were going to Orlando, then she wouldn't know which direction to go. So I think you could see the importance of having a very clear vision. We like 3-year visions for high growth smaller companies. Sometimes a 5-year vision is warranted. But being able to really build that wall around a very clear mission and vision is critical. So the first wall is mission and vision. who we are, what we do, why we do it, and where we're going gets answered. And that is a corporate wall that represents the corporation. Now, the next wall is core values. Many of you have core value statements. Some of you may not. It's very, very important to create a set of core values for the company, and I'll tell you why. The core values in a statement and documentation that you might create tells your employees how to interact together, how to interact with customers, what's expected of me from a behavior standpoint. So being able to say that integrity is the most important thing, or we will serve our customers with a level of excellence that they've never even perceived of. Those are the kinds of statements in your core values that can go a long way. Now, the caveat here is you have to live the core values, obviously, or the employees will see right through it, and that wall will not be near as secure. So creating a very secure wall around core values tells your employees how to interact with the outside world, how to interact internally, and what's expected. Again, just like a child needs to know what the boundaries are, the employees needs to know what's important to you as the owner, what's important to you from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And the more you beat the drum around core values, the deeper that wall gets ingrained in the associate's brain, and the stronger that wall becomes. Now, the third wall is what I'll call SOPs, and that stands for Standard Operating Procedures. You might have heard of processes. A lot of times at Launch Natural, we talk about best practice processes. A lot of the processes, for example, accounts payable, accounts receivable, or counting inventory, there are literally specific best practices written around how to run your business. So borrow those best practices. But the point about the process piece of this and the SOPs is that you have to teach your employees how to do business with each other. There's a great analogy in volleyball, two-man volleyball or two-woman volleyball. You might have seen it in the Olympics, beach volleyball with two people. If you serve right down the middle of those two people, a lot of times that serve will bounce right between the two. And the concept there is that they call it the husband and wife play in volleyball, where the husband says, "I thought you had it," the wife says, "I thought you had it." So a lot of times in business, the connection points between the processes is where things fail. So teaching your employees how to do business with each other, when you're done with this, you hand it to this person, they do A, B, and C and hand it back to you, for example, is an excellent way to build a very, very strong wall that helps the employee feel comfortable that they know exactly what they're doing in relation to the others in the company, who they touch, and we use Visio charts, we use Gantt charts, we use boxes and diagrams on whiteboards to get this point across, but boxes connected to boxes, if-then statements, if this, then that. The best of the best document everything they do from a process standpoint to be able to scale their business. Now, the fourth wall is specific to the individual employee, and that's their role. Now, you could expand on this and say roles and responsibilities, or that particular employee's role and responsibility is very important. This goes to what do I expect from you in the next 6 months? Where do I want you to improve? What is the key metric or key metrics that I am judging you on in the next 6 months? And then here's the training you need to be able to deliver on that. That's the very personal wall. The deeper you can go in defining the roles and responsibilities for that associate, the stronger this wall will be. So now you can see, if we work from right to left, green to red on this slide, if I know my role, if I know what you're expecting of me, and then I move to the SOPs wall, and I know how to interact with others through a process, and then I move to the core values wall, and you're telling me how I'm expected to behave, and then I move that to the red wall, mission and vision, and you're telling me what we do, why we do it, and where we're headed. I think you can see how all four of these walls really structure themselves in such a way that it makes the associate comfortable to make great decisions. And again, building these walls individually, together, collectively, brick by brick, is a proactive effort that the CEO must adopt as their responsibility and get very, very proactive on how to do this. And we can talk about how to do that in more detail at a later time. But the what and how, in terms of what you need to be thinking about in terms of building, these are the four walls that you want to build.